Every person has a ghost story, whether they heard it from a friend or if it was a first-hand experience. Everyone seems to have one.
My name is Elizabeth Byrne. I currently live in Carlow. I grew up in a big old country farmhouse with my brothers and my sisters and my father and mother. And it was a lovely big old house. It was really old. It was built in 1800 and something. It was a very old house. The first person to live in Askinch was the great-grandmother. She actually came back from America with her children to live in Askinch. But before what happened was around 1905, her husband and her had moved. They had gone to America and they got the option to come back and live in Ireland and buy land in Ireland because all changes were happening in Ireland. So he came back first. Peter, his name was Peter, he was my great-grandfather, and he came back first. And he went to back to Askinch and he purchased it, and he also purchased another piece of ground called Johnstown, but he purchased Askinch. Then he travelled back to America on the boat. When he got back to America, he died. He died of TB, and he was buried in North Dakota in America. So my great-grandmother, anyhow, she decided to carry on with the plan and move back to Ireland. Then she returned with my grandfather and her two brothers and sisters, and my grandfather's name was Patrick, and he ended up being the guy that owned it. She gave him Askinch after she died. And then he had my father, John Joe, and 4 or 5 other kids. One summer's morning, I got up and I went down the stairs and I went over to the hall stand, which was at the bottom of the stairs. There was a hall stand where we could brush our hair. It was up against the wall and it faced the door at the bottom of the stairs, which was leading into the parlour. And I went over to the hall stand. I opened the drawer. I took out the hairbrush and I started brushing my hair and looking at myself in the mirror as I was brushing my hair. Now the mirror, I could see myself in the mirror, but I could also see the parlour door behind me in the mirror. So I continued to brush my hair, and then I noticed in the mirror, just to the corner of my eye, I could see the door behind me, the parlour door, was slightly opening. It was opening up behind me, and I was sort of stunned looking at this thing opening up behind me. And it opened, and next thing, as it opened, I could see this woman with her hair pinned back real tightly on her head, and she was about 35-ish. But I saw her coming out through the door. I could see this in the mirror now. Through, you know, as I was standing there like gawping with shock at her, and this person coming out of the parlour door, which it was a stranger. It wasn't a person that I knew. Was in a different type of dress. The dress was a different type of. I was just absolutely stunned and rooted to the spot with fear. And I was thinking, what? Who is this? What? And so I blinked then, and I ran from the hall screaming. Ran out of the hall screaming my head off, looking for someone to help me, save me from this ghost, because I had to be a ghost because it didn't exist. It was a person that didn't exist in the house. And I ran screaming out to where my sisters were, and of course they didn't believe me. I now believe that woman that I saw that day, she was my great-grandmother Elizabeth. There's a young version of her when she had first come back to Ireland and was going around her house, and it was just a shadow image of her that I saw. I just caught a glimpse of her. Maybe she was heightened emotionally that time, and I was in a relaxed state, and I just happened to see her. I feel that she is attached to my father and attached to the Askinch, the property, because she had achieved something marvellous. She had got her her own land, which Irish people never owned their own land at that time. So she had achieved, and she needs to look after Ask Kinch and the people of her descendants.